Hello guys! I finally got my hands on editing this video from my last trip to Miami, or to be more accurate, to Sanni Айлс beach, although we still spent some time in the downtown area of Miami as well. I didn't talk there in public because I didn't want to draw any attention to the fact that I'm filming, since I know that Americans are not very excited about being captured on the video with phone cameras or any other device. They simply appreciate their space, their rights to privacy. And this is simply impolite and rude just to point your camera at someone who doesn't give you any consent to do that. Yet if I still want to show some environment around me, I would do it carefully and stealthily. So yeah, this is why you're listening to this audio track being laid over the video range, but I hope it's okay, and I'll try to be more informative in lieu of just commenting something in real time. Anyways, I thought that this video could be helpful and useful for some people at least. So as you all know, all along of that war in Ukraine and due to the situation developed in Russia, there is a huge flow of people who are either seeking the political asylum here or trying to get some temporary refuge in such countries like Canada and the United States, let alone Europe, right? So it turned out that this specific Miami area could be one of the nicest places to settle down for a few years for Slavs, because it has a very developed Slavic community here, and the life pace reminds me more of that one we're used to in our big Eastern European cities, unlike prevailing slow living of American suburbs, with a few exceptions probably. I cannot say that this certain trip was the planned one, because in the very first place, after our last mutual trip with my friend to New York City in the fall, we decided that okay, next time we need to go to California, Francisco itself, and then we wanted to go and see the Google office, as well as to make my dream come true from my bucket list to drive to the Sequoia Park and spend some time there, like a day or so. We'd also fancy driving to Lake Tahoe, but that would be the huge distances in between those destinations. So unfortunately, we had no option to book a flight and a hotel room in advance, let's say for some family circumstances, so we decided to play it by ear. But when the time came, it was already the war in Ukraine and we had no mood to go anywhere actually. But since her mom came from Ukraine and we had that opportunity to go somewhere together, her mom would help looking after her baby and she herself would get some rest after that terrifying situation in Ukraine. But I forgot to mention that pretty high season started back then. I guess it was the middle of May, and the prices to California, to San Francisco, both from Atlanta and from her state, Kentucky, they just rocketed. And even though in the very beginning of, I think in the middle of April we were looking up, that was something about $580, $600 for convenient cheapest flights. By the time we actually had to buy something, flights to San Francisco ended up to be around $900. Can you imagine that? In the first decade of May, we decided, okay, that's too much, over $2,000 per person on that vacation. And yeah, we thought that we would better go with her family to Miami, and it would be way cheaper and it would be closer to us, less time flying, having short or no layovers at all. But No wonder the cost of staying there in the hotel rooms or Airbnb apartments increased too, so we had to pay around $309 a night per room, including tax and resort fee. Це в нас травень. I cannot say that going there in May was the best idea because it was piping hot outdoors, especially for walking around for the entire day, and because we're trying to embrace as much Florida and the Miami area as we could.
Ще один фонтан такий. Так, Старбаксик. Все як треба, все, що треба для життя. Оце таким я уявляла Лас-Вегас. Ой, Лас-Вегас, да, може підемо. Лос-Анджелес, знаєш, Майями, оце все таке. І всю Америку я таке уявляла.
I admit that it was so silly of me, if not to rephrase it stronger, but when we went for a walk along the coast while my friend's son was having his daytime sleep, for some reason I didn't use any sunscreen that I brought to Miami, and I was like, that's not a big deal. I have my cover up, put on my wide brimmed hat, so yeah, I'm gonna be okay.
Я маю на увазі фінансово спроможних славян.
But that was very treacherous excuse. That long-sleeved and almost to my ankle long cover-up was made as sort of open work. That was actually the crocheted one. It didn't protect me well from the sun, so I came back to the hotel room like maybe in 1 hour or a little bit longer than that, completely burnt under the sun. There was so severe sunburn that my hands and my feet, they started to get swollen, and I even developed some sort of slight rash. I assume it might be sun allergy that I have never had in my life before. That's why I really want to recommend you, if you have never been there before, if you go there to visit friends or relatives or just for a vacation or I don't know, even immigrate, please be very careful with sun in Florida. I myself had a chance to get convinced in it because before I heard about it many times that sun in the United States is a very aggressive one, but I never took it seriously. So I hope you can see from this video range that there is a definite dense urban feel there in this part of the Sanni Айлс. You can hear the Ukrainian and Russian languages there on every corner, and there are those who came there to winter and rent the apartments or houses, as well as some that own the real estate in that area. I cannot remember now accurately, but while we were having our stroll along the streets of that neighborhood, my friend checked the real estate sites, something like Zillow or maybe something else. She said that the rental cost of those apartments started approximately from 1900, and the upper boundary was, I guess it was about $18,000 a month, not including utilities and various fees. And if you prefer to buy a house, condo, or apartment in the high rises, that would cost you, again, starting with $400,000, while the upper boundary would tend to I would say infinity. I recall that the price label on one of the apartments showed roughly $12 million. And let's not forget about the annual real estate tax and different types of insurances, including the coverage as aftermath of the flooding, which often happens in Florida after hurricanes and storms. Yet I somewhat digressed, and I wanted to mention, with regards to that developed Slavic community, that you can find there nice European-style coffee shops, restaurants, Slavic grocery stores, and much, much more for comfortable and like high-quality way of living. Oh, and I bet that women could take advantage of being in that community due to having the very decent beauty salons run by the Slavs and hiring experienced, meticulous specialists. Just in case, guys, this one is a typical American restaurant, and it wasn't the food that mattered, it was actually the view that you can observe in front of you and the sound of the ocean. As you heard, this is already Miami Beach, and I wouldn't praise Miami Beach as an alternative to Sanni Айлс, since in comparison it looks much older, and it is older in fact. It was incorporated in 1915, so it has more historical heritage in there, yet it was aging not in that classy European way, so it doesn't look neither modern and in places fancy like Sanni Айлс Beach, neither elegant like old European cities. There are plenty of blocks and neighborhoods that actually don't look like well maintained, pretty shabby in fact, and even more depressive ones in some parts of Miami itself. But anyways, you can judge from the video itself, since I tend to be very picky and I could call myself a snob with very high-raised expectations. Okay, I'll let you have some rest from my chattering so that you can just observe, make your own conclusions and inferences, and then in some time I will be back with other comments along the video.
Категорія, вони про паливо не думають про економію. Ти, коротше, фоткаєш, скидеш. Ага, я відео. Кажуть же, що в Майями без іспанського нема що робити.
By the way, guys, if you have ever heard about the biggest cruise liners in the world, these ones are among them. And I don't remember the name of these specific liners. I just recall that I read about them in some article many years ago. So when I saw them in person, I was super impressed because they were incredibly gigantic. Well, guys, let me introduce the notorious American contrasts to you. They actually can be observed within one city from block to block, located within the distance of 10-15 minute drive. At one point you can see those fancy, shiny skyscrapers of the business center blocks with upscale restaurants, luxurious stores, selling worldwide famous brands, lovely groomed parks. And here we go, like 10-15 minutes, and you're driving your car through the city, and you can see depressive neighborhoods, ghettos. And yeah, pretty often they try to improve this situation through gentrification. Quite frequently, you will witness some sort of hipster communities or neighborhoods in there. But this is not always the case. And there are still so many quite dangerous blocks in the American cities. And I agree, it can be said about any country on this planet. I'm sure there is the same issue in the European countries, Asian ones, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the United States, I don't know why, but people always have higher expectations. And personally, I noticed, compared to European and Asian countries, when people feel absolutely comfortable living in the city centers and closer to the downtown, North American middle class follows the trend of settling down 35-45 minute drive from the city in the suburbs. At this certain point, you can see that we're entering the community of Little Havana, where immigrants from Cuba establish their business, small stores, restaurants, beverage stalls. We were granted, I believe, 30 minutes or so that we could grab some mojito, walk around the streets, buy some cigars as souvenirs, before we headed back to the base station of the downtown. Frankly, those were mixed feelings. Just don't forget that we've been riding this double-deck bus all this time under the scorching sun, and by the end of our excursion, we were close to ruin our clothes, especially those layers of mine I was wearing from head to toe, hiding my already been super red body. Like, literally, I was as red as the boiled crawfish.
О, там чурросы есть. Чурросы там есть.
This is $85. This set.
This is from Galana?
This is my rent. That's what's made here in Miami.
Like here?
Yeah.
What else you have?
Hmm?
What is it?
I have these ones for $65. Comes in a box. 5 church shoes.
Слухай, ну точно як на Кубі десь. Вот, мохито коллекцион, ну, в смысле, коллекцион коллекшн. То можно там.
Нью-Йорку на вулиці.
Fortunately, we found our relief from the heat on a boat that took us to a bay that had mentions of American celebrities on its both sides.
Americana de la isla San Marcos, esta casa María de 3 pisos le pertenece a actor y cantante Antonio Banderas. Actor, the only Chinese actor most of you guys know, Jackie Chan. Americana de la isla de Lido, esta casa blanca con
Белый Джеки Чан, этот белый. Да.
le pertenece a actor, le pertenece al cofundador de Instagram, Mike Krager. Five minutes ago, after she found out she was allergic to Windex. Ahora en esta casa blanca como esta niña negra le pertenecía a Jennifer Lopez.
Молодец.
Casa blanca con el jacuzzi ronda arriba le pertenece a Ricky Martin. Esta casa blanca con techos anaranjadas le pertenece a Carmen Electra, la actriz famosa de Bella. Conor McGregor. Just kidding, Shakira. It's her own vacation home on the ramp. Una derecha esta casa blanca con el barco rojo frente a la casa le pertenecía a la cantante Shakira. The entire island. It used to belong to a very famous gangster from Chicago. Who knows?
Микрофоны.
That's correct. Oprah Winfrey. Just kidding. Acapella back in 1920s. He moved away after getting arrested to a much more exclusive island called Alcatraz. Couple of you guys, you're yelling from downstairs, like, I saw it, I saw it. That's the house? Nah, it actually wasn't in that movie. Pertenecía a la cantante Rihanna. That's David Beckham's with the that's my favorite. I'm gonna head esta casa blanca con ella de blanco. Frente a la casa le pertenece a David Beckham. We work for chips. Yeah, so if you feel so inclined, you can drop a tip in there.
If being honest, this boat ride made our day in Miami. Had it been not for this ride, the entire excursion would not have been worthy of wasting up to 6 hours on this bus tour route. Let's say I was leaving Miami with very ambiguous impressions. Of course, I like that downtown business area, which we were circling around in that bus. But in my opinion, nothing in the United States could outshine and surpass Manhattan and Boston, if you have ever been there at least once. As for the rest parts included in that bus itinerary, well, I would say we were left with a pretty bitter aftertaste. I was truly disappointed. That's why we were heading back to lovely Sanni Айлс with no regrets that we decided to stay there instead of Miami Beach or even closer to downtown Miami. Unlikely you will be able to relax driving in the Miami metro area. Traffic is pretty busy there. I would say a little bit less than in Atlanta metro area, but still, that was noticeable. So yeah, even if I would note the proximity of Sanni Айлс to the airport is about 30 minutes and to downtown Miami 35-40 minutes drive, but still, if it might be a necessity to commute there for some office work or drive there for sake of a nightlife style that it's pretty known for among people who appreciate that sort of entertainment in life, the commute probably would not be too light, especially if you get stuck somewhere in the traffic during peak hours. I guess it would take twice as long to cover that distance. The city of Sanni Айлс Beach is a youngster, and it's been only for 25 years there. Actually, we came there on our vacation right on those days they were celebrating his birthday. So yeah, that's why urban planning looks pretty modern, very neat and fresh. Also, here you can find the 14th tallest skyline in the United States, as Wikipedia claims. And what is also truly important for us European immigrants, they have quite developed pedestrian routes in this city. They even have underground passages that we used to have in Ukraine. If you have kids, you will be happy about that fact that they have a few nice playgrounds that in the afternoon and in the evenings, full of children and parents speaking familiar Slavic languages. Even though I'm not a fan of the idea of coming to the US and isolate yourself from English. Just look at this beach. It's vast, clean, sand is so white, and water changes from an amazing color and hue to another, just like in fancy commercials. Would I move to Sanni Айлс beach myself? Most likely yes. Although it would be relocation with one significant drawback. It would be the absolutely proper place to dwell if you have some relatively decent savings to start off your well-balanced American life from a European point of view, I mean. But only if you don't avoid hot, sultry and humid summers intentionally. Personally, I, who never had any problems with the sun and high temperatures traveling to hot countries in the past, living myself in a southern state of Georgia, still, this time, as I've already told, I developed something like sun allergy. Unfortunately, they don't have siesta there to wait out the hottest part of the day, but air conditioners in your car, office, and residence come to the rescue for sure. And it's not a problem if you work remotely. You can jog in the early mornings and after your work day, chilling, if you can say that about Florida at all, in the evenings. Anyways, we had several days of lazy vacationing, and it's time to go back home to Atlanta. Here we go, guys. I have a chance to prove my words that I said once about how lush and green Metro Atlanta is. And look at this space. It's all covered with tree canopies. Well, it's time to wrap up. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. See you!